Call of Duty Black Ops 3, a game that when it was released in 2015 was one of the most graphically impressive CODs to date, and felt like it was crafted to truly take full advantage of the PS4 and Xbox One's hardware. The first true next-gen Call of Duty, if you will. So why the hell did it need an Xbox 360 port? Call of Duty Black Ops 3 was released in 2015 on Xbox One and PS4, as I just mentioned, but alongside that, it also received ports for the Xbox 360 and PS3, which, mind you, were already getting close to their expiration dates. By 2015, the 360 and PS3 were pretty much dead in the water. Yes, they were still getting games, but when it came down to full AAA releases, a lot of them completely abandoned the last-gen consoles by that point, with games like The Witcher 3, Arkham Knight, and Rainbow Six Siege all being made exclusive to the next generation systems, because let's face it, the 360 and PS3 just couldn't do it anymore. Despite this though, Activision was adamant on keeping COD on the 360, as even Advanced Warfare and Ghost saw releases on the 360 and PS3. Those somewhat made sense though, because the 360 and PS3 were still kicking in 2013 and 2014. 2015 though, as I just said, was where the 360 and PS3 were starting to be phased out in favor of the PS4 and Xbox One. So releasing a new COD for the last generation systems in that year made little to no sense. But they still did it anyways. Now, Call of Duty is no stranger to having shitty cross-gen releases, with World at War having been released on the PS2 as well as the 360, Wii, and PS3 in 2008. With that though, they at least realized that this wasn't gonna work on this, and instead of going through the hassle of trying to port the 360 version over to the PS2, they instead made a whole new game for the PS2 and gave it a slightly different title to differentiate it from the other versions. Black Ops 3 on the 360 was a much different story though, because they tried their damnedest to get this game to work on the system. The last gen version of Black Ops 3 was developed by Beanox, since Treyarch was not only busy with the development on the next gen version of the game, but also they just didn't want their name attached to a shitty version of their game. So fast forward to November 6, 2015, and Black Ops 3 was officially released for the Xbox One, PS4, PC, as well as the PS3 and Xbox 360. The 360 and PS3 versions were $60 at launch, just like the other versions, and what made it even more egregious was that the last gen versions lacked a campaign. Now, I don't know why anyone would want to play Black Ops 3's campaign, but regardless of the campaign's quality, it's still a huge chunk of the game on next gen, and when you take that away, it really devalues the rest of the experience. It's okay though, because if you bought Black Ops 3 on disc, you get Black Ops 1 for free. Not Black Ops 2 though, they didn't want to be too generous. Now, upon starting the game, you're greeted with the same menu as the next gen versions, with the biggest difference being that it runs like shit. This is a pre-rendered video. Why is it running this bad? Another thing is that the game required a download, meaning if you didn't have an internet connection, you weren't playing this game. Of course, with no campaign, the only options we have are multiplayer and zombies. Now, due to the limitations of the hardware, split-screen multiplayer is completely absent in this version, and for good reason, because imagine the 360 trying to run Black Ops 3 in split screen. Alright, so there's no campaign and no split screen. Surely that means that multiplayer and zombies have to be good then, right? Well, considering they don't even have any screenshots of gameplay for the modes on the back of the box, it's safe to say that they suck ass. Let's start off by talking about zombies, because trust me, this won't take very long. Now, I'm already not a big fan of Black Ops 3 zombies. Now, with that statement, I'm sure I already started a war in the comments, but truthfully, I do not care. BO3 zombies sucks, and I will forever stand by that. Unless it's Zombie Chronicles, then it's good. Anyways, zombies in the 360 version of BO3 might be the worst thing I've ever played. First off, let's address the elephant in the room. Get the fuck out. There's only 3 maps, with Shadows of Evil being the only one on the disc, with the others being the DLC maps, Drak and the Giant. Now, I can't speak on what the Giant and Drak are like in this version, because I haven't played the maps at all to begin with, let alone in this version of the game, but what I can tell you is that Shadows of Evil is pure garbage. Firstly, when you start the map, you get this really high quality cutscene, which is very obviously pre-rendered, because when the cutscene ends, Jesus Christ, what the fuck am I even looking at? First of all, everything is super low resolution, and the performance, I mean, it runs, but that's about all I can say. Just from the zombies alone, it's very obvious that this game was a rushed job because they somehow managed to make this look worse than Black Ops 2 zombies. It really sucks too, because as much as I dislike Shadows of Evil, just the map in general, I will admit that it is a really good looking map in the next gen version, and just seeing it look the way it does in the last gen version takes so much away from the map's identity. All in all, this version of zombies would end up being so bad that it was very quickly abandoned, as future DLCs like Zombie Chronicles were nowhere to be found on the 360. Now, I really don't know what else to say about zombies on 360. It's so unbelievably barren and devoid of content that it makes trying to say anything about it pretty difficult. So with that, let's move on to what should be the best part of the game, the multiplayer. The first thing you'll notice about the multiplayer is that there's no specialist customization or even a black market like in the next gen version. The reason why there's no option for you to customize your specialist, I feel, is largely down to the fact that, again, much like zombies in the main menu of the game, multiplayer's lobby backgrounds are just pre-rendered videos. When you customized your specialist on next gen, you would see whatever changes you made take effect in the lobby. And with the background being pre-rendered on the last gen, that makes that whole feature literally impossible to pull off. Speaking of the specialists, every single one is playable, thankfully, but specialists are such a big part of the multiplayer that I'd be concerned if they cut any of them from this version. This version also features every map that was playable in the next gen version, with the exception of Nuketown and other DLC maps, which honestly is probably for the better, since maps like Aquarium can barely hold a frame rate, and maps like Combine, damn it, this version of the multiplayer only saw 4 DLC maps get released for it. The other DLC maps from the next gen version didn't make the cut. Now, for the multiplayer, the performance is what really drags the multiplayer down in this version. It doesn't take a lot for the game to start chugging, as all you really have to do is fire your gun for the frames to drop below what feels like 10 FPS. As for game modes, they're all there, of course, and while they're still fun in this version, the lower frame rate and awful visuals can very easily turn a game of gun game into a game of try not to get motion sick very quickly. Also, because Treyarch distanced themselves from this version, it means rather than the bots in multiplayer having the 3-art clan tag like they do in the next gen version, they instead have the clan tag ATVI, letting you know that this was all their fault. Speaking of the bots, due to the limited power of the 360 and PS3, the last gen version limits you to only having 12 bots in a lobby, whereas the next gen version lets you go up to 18. Now, talking about the actual maps, the maps themselves are very low resolution and lack a lot of detail compared to their next gen counterparts. For example, here's Infection on Xbox 360, and here's that same map on PC. It's a night and day difference. The maps on 360 just feel so lifeless when compared to their next gen versions. There's just nothing to them, and I can't stand looking at them because of how abysmal they are. The rest of the multiplayer in this game is even worse, especially when you look at the class customization. These guns genuinely look like they were ripped straight out of the original Half-Life from 1998. You know it's bad when you can actually count the fucking polygons. 1, 2. Now, because there's no black market in this game, it means a lot of the weapons are missing. There's no melee weapons at all in this game like there is in the next gen version. There's no fancy animated camos either, which is kind of unfortunate. Just like zombies, the multiplayer is about as bare bones as it gets. Hell, they didn't even bother to include emotes, so after each game, the top 3 players are just kind of standing there doing nothing. Multiplayer in this version really has nothing to it. So with that, I think it's just time I end the video. In conclusion, Black Ops 3 on the 360 is a waste of space. No, seriously, this game is taking 2 spots on my shelf, please help. There is no reason for this game to exist. It's very evident that this game was only made so Activision could make bank off the fact that there were still people playing on the 360 and PS3 in 2015, even if it meant making a shit ton of compromises just to fit the game onto dated hardware. Now, after BO3's disastrous release on the 360 and PS3, Activision would end up taking the hint and realize that it just wasn't worth sticking with the last gen consoles. So in 2016, they would end up shifting their focus solely towards next gen with their next release, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and thank God it didn't get a last gen port. Now I just hope Activision's learned their lesson this time around with Black Ops 6. God damn it, we're just right back where we started.